What's up, guys? It's Missy. I'm back with another SimCity Buildit video, and today we're going to be talking about the contest of mayors, and we're going to go over a couple of things just to kind of refresh everybody on some stuff with like prep, assignments, things like that, because I'm noticing that a lot of people, not just in my CoM training course, but in the comments section or like on Facebook, they're asking questions or doing things that have been talked about so many times in my videos, and I don't understand like where the miscommunication is on these things. So I'm going to go ahead and make a video where I just kind of review some of the stuff that you guys need to remember. One of the things is when you're doing your prep, okay, when you're doing your shop prep, make sure that you're making all 10 items of the same item, okay? Make sure that you're making items that take a decent time to make. Like, don't prep hammers, okay? Prep something like shovels or spatulas or something. Don't prep, let's say, veggies. Prep something like cream or melons or something. If you're obviously a lower level player and you only have veggies unlocked, then obviously you would prep veggies, right? I've also noticed that a lot of people are making a huge mistake when the contest of mayors begins. They're collecting like everything that's in their shop when they really should only be collecting one item and then having placed one down, using the yellow arrows above the shops to cycle through. Another thing I've noticed is when it comes to factory prep. Now, this seems to be a major issue with people, knowing what factory assignments to do, when to clear them, all that stuff. The biggest mistake that I see with that is that people don't prep their factory stuff at the right time. For instance, let's say that it's like the night before. They usually prep something like sugar or something when they should have prepped something like feed. For instance, feed has a less likely chance of reoccurring, but it usually comes in worth a decent amount of points. So if it's in your list worth low points, it's probably a good idea not to touch it. But what people will do is they'll think, well, I'm going to bed anyway, I might as well do it. But that's not the issue. The issue is that you've now cleared the assignment and now it can come back. And if it comes back, it's a lot of downtime that you really can't afford to take, because you have to time your assignments for like war and things like that. It really can hurt you if you're not careful on when to prep. Or another mistake that people will make is they'll have their factories open, okay? And let's say they get an assignment to make, let's say, textiles. And it's something that they have to do because the assignment is actually decent points. Then they're like, well, I'm going to be doing other things in the meantime. And they fill up their factories right away, not thinking like, hey, I should have done the second round first. So like, let's say that you have to make 50 textiles, right? You don't fill up 40 on your first run if you plan on doing other assignments. You would put down the second half, thereby leaving those factory slots open. But let's say that you're only running one round. So like, let's say the assignment's for 40 textiles and you're a level 24 player and you have to fill up the 40 slots so that you can get it done in one round. When to fill it up? Like, let's say that you are doing, let's say you got a 3K VU task, right? And you know you need to do textiles. Should you start the textiles right then? No, you should probably wait until after you finish your VU task before you start the textiles, because that one can go so quickly. Or like, if your next one is a coins task or something, get that done first just to double check and make sure that you don't have like a metal task or a plastic task, right? Then when you see like, hey, this other assignment's going to take me a little bit, like maybe it's 3 flights and you know you're going to have to take some time kind of getting all those items and things like that, then that would be a good time to set those textiles up. Don't wait too long though. That's what people do. They either wait way too long and their stuff would have been done by now, or they don't wait long enough and it's like, well, you could have waited 2 seconds until you finish that keys task and then known like, hey, I got metal or something, right? So another thing that a lot of people are making the mistake with is they're not in a club that fits their needs. You cannot participate in Mega if you cannot do your assignments, especially when you are a low-level player and you're not doing upgrades. So you're really limited to what you're capable of doing. And then when you're cutting out, you know, war assignments and upgrade assignments, and then you've got like all the non-premium assignments you're not doing, I mean, you're leaving yourself very minimal options here, and that's not good. So it's like you can't leave stuff sit and then have no ability or opportunity to get something better, but you can't afford to cancel every other task either. So you need to find a group that definitely fits your needs. Another thing is a lot of you guys are moving way too slow. You need to go as quickly as possible. Try to get as much as you can get done. Don't be like, oh, I'm just going to aim for 10 assignments today and call it good. No, try to go as quick as you possibly can. If you hit a downtime, you need to utilize your downtime. Make sure that you are, you know, restocking inventory, that you're piling up coins, that you're, you know, doing something, finding something that you can prep better for, whether it be make canisters so that you have the omega stuff so you can sell it, stuff like that. Okay, so just a second here. Okay, all right, so the next thing is that a lot of you guys are, hang on just a second here. A lot of you guys are making the mistake with the epic projects and the upgrading war cards, those two tasks. Now we need to have a little chit chat about that. So here's the thing. You're pretty limited on the amount of epics that you can do and the amount of war cards that you can upgrade. So for instance, sure, yeah, okay, you can upgrade war cards for actually quite some time, you know, but they do get pretty expensive and you do end up needing quite a few cards. So the first, you know, couple levels of each card is okay. So you're okay there for a little while. But people are doing these assignments when they have no chance of winning mega. Like, let's say you have a hacker and you know you're not going to win. Don't waste a valuable asset, you know? Like, for instance, many of you guys are blowing through your epic projects, not even thinking. For instance, I have a guy in my training course, and he was like, oh, I have an epic assignment for like 40 points or whatever. And so, like, 15 minutes goes by, and he's like, okay, epic done. I'm like, what? What do you mean your epic's done? Why is your epic done? Like, now if you get an epic assignment, now you're not going to be able to do it. You have to wait the 12 hours. And it's not just the fact that you have to wait the 12 hours. You just screwed up big time. Because here's the thing. You're limited to the number of epics that you can do, right? So you can only convert so many houses before you have to start to level up again. That assignment does not go away from your list when you complete all of your houses into epics, and you can only complete the houses that don't have clip trays, right? So you're going to end up with like 2 or 3 clip trays that you and houses that you can't convert. So now it's like, okay, once you're done and you've used up all of your regular residentials and you've converted them all, now what? Now you have yet again another assignment that is just a problem for you, something that you have to work around. If it comes in worth a high value, you have to figure something out, you know, whether it be that maybe you have to cancel it, maybe you have to let it sit, depends on the situation. But the point is, you don't want to have like 3 epics done in 1 week of the contest. That's foolish. Okay, like what you should have been doing is you should have been starting your epic, and if it's worth less than the requirement for let's say bronze, okay, then you would leave it, and if it doesn't ask for any others, then you let it go back to its original state. This will extend the duration of time that you'll be able to utilize that epic feature. Now, if you don't do that and you end up getting, let's say, another assignment for like 60 epic points, now you're at, what, 100 points? You still have 100 points. So you may get another epic assignment, and it happens way more frequently than people realize. And then they're like, oh shit, now I gotta wait 12 hours. Like, yeah, but now you've also used up yet again another very valuable home, right? And so it's not good to just blow through them all. So then I told him this, and then so like the next day he gets another epic, or not the next day, like 3, tasks later he got an epic challenge, and he's like, what are the odds in that? I'm like, pretty high. That's why I told you, not to do that. And that's why you should have held off and waited. And so he's like, okay, well now I know for tomorrow. Well, this one came in for 60 points, right? And so then he's like, okay, tomorrow morning I'll start my epic. So the next day comes, he starts his epic, he does his 60 points, and he gets, like 4 tasks later, he gets another epic for 60 points, something like that. And it puts him at 120 points done. This means he has 80 points remaining, so if he got another one, he would be able to do it. Then he gets another one for 50 points and says he can't do it. And I'm like, why can't you do it? You should have 80 points. Oh, well, I donated some. I left 40. Why would you leave 40? Why wouldn't you leave 60? That's the most it can be worth, right? That's the most an epic project's going to ask you for on a assignment. So why wouldn't you leave the 60, especially knowing that the higher the amount that it's going to ask for, the more points it's going to be worth, the more risky it's going to be if you do it. So if he would have just waited and held off, a couple, maybe half hour, he would have been fine. But instead, he didn't. And now it's like, oh, well, I'll wait till morning to start it. Now you're into your 3rd epic for this week, and you're almost done with your assignments. That's complete waste of a house. I mean, the point is the first couple of weeks when you guys are playing competitively, you really want to bank in on those resources. So a couple of things that you're going to have at the beginning, maybe the first month or so when you start playing, is you have that full experience bar from 24 to just before hitting level 25 that you can utilize. Then you have the epic feature. Then you have the war cards, right? The war card upgrades. Those 3 things are huge assets that you're using up. And if you use them up when you aren't winning, or when you don't need to, then you're using a very valuable asset. And so what ends up happening is you end up spending, let's say, 2-3 weeks playing Mega, you don't win, you use up all your assets and your resources, and then what? Now you're having an even harder time trying to win because you have to work around these assignments. For example, CPT, right? He's won Mega countless times, but it got to the point with him where he couldn't do a huge majority of his tasks because, you can't do monster. Coins isn't a major, that's something you do as like a last minute. The keys and repair are not premium. They're like a kind of a last resort type rotation thing. Then you've got war tax, and then you've got your war card feature, which he's pretty much needs a ton of war cards and a ton of keys to do that. He can't do any more epics. He can't, do any upgrades of any kind. He has no experience bar there. So he's really limited to what he's capable of doing. So he ended up having to proceed on because he was getting flooded with upgrades. And that comes into the next part of my video where a lot of you guys are going to start seeing that you're getting flooded with upgrades. Okay, so like a lot of your list is going to be upgrades. You're going to have to find a way to work around it because unless you're at the point where he's at, where it's like you've got all 4 maxes, you've won, Mega a bunch of times, every single thing is done, your storage is maxed, your land, beach, all that. That's the other thing. The land and beach, those are 2 very valuable assets. Okay, or not land, mountain and beach. Mountain and beach are very limited, right? So like the first couple of weeks, think about it like this. The first couple of weeks in Mega, you're going to be doing beach, mountain, war card upgrades, and house upgrades on regular residential homes. Think about how many premiums or near premiums points that is, and that alleviates a lot of that stress. Plus, then, you know, you do have some of those 2K land upgrades, which can be problematic, but also they can kind of level out your average if you only, you know, had a couple. But my point is, you start to take away all these little things that you can't do, and you start to have problems. You don't want to waste very valuable assets on weeks where you have hackers. So if you have hackers in your league, or you feel like you're not going to win, don't waste your tickets. Don't waste your beach upgrades and your mountain upgrades. Just be like, look, I already know I'm not going to win first place. I'm just going to do quick, fast, easy points. So, like, I used to have people in my training course all the time, and they'd be like, well, you know, I could still try, though. And I'm like, no, dude, you just need to do quick, fast, easy points. And they're like, well, why? I could still get, like, third or fourth. I'm like, because that's just it. If you use up all your good stuff to settle for third or fourth, that's ridiculous. You know, just, you could get third or fourth just doing quick, fast, easy points. And if you can't get third or fourth doing quick, fast, easy points, why would you use up all of your keys and your cards and your upgrades? And you know what I mean? Like, that's just stupid. So make sure that it's worth your investment, okay? Not to mention the cash that goes into the contest, stuff like that. So that comes to the next tip or thing that people need to remember, and that is that you need to start mega prepped. You know, not just with items, but with coin, with cash, with tokens, things like that. I've noticed a lot of people, like, online saying things like, oh, I don't make epics because I have 100 tokens. Look, man, that's fine and all, but if you think of it like this, tokens sitting there don't do any good for you. That is time, and that time could be sped up to give you better money, coin, item, whatever. Once you utilize those tokens, your city is regenerating on its own. It's basically, it's giving to you every single day, right? Which is something that you want to prepare for at a lower level, so that when you get to a higher level, when you don't want to invest every waking moment into the contest, you don't have to. The reason that you have 100, you know, tokens or whatever is because you're playing the contest of mayors and you're getting stuff from the pass. But when you stop playing the contest of mayors, or when you want to, you know, really bank in and start making some coin or doing whatever, you just have this city that doesn't give back to you now. You know, you have all these homes that want things and, you know, want service demand and things like that, but you don't have your city only gives you taxes, right? Whereas, like, a lower level player who decided to do their epics regardless, they have that to fall back on. So even if you're a level 24 player with like 50 tokens, so what? That's not the point. The point is that you are doing your epics now while they're cheap, so that later when the game gets hard and expensive, you don't have to, you know, do a $600,000 epic project. You did like a $100,000 epic project. It's an investment, okay? And the fact of the matter is the house is there forever. The tokens in your inventory are not, okay? They're disposable, they go away, and then you have nothing. Whereas when you invest in the house, you have it forever. So if you're somebody who thinks like that, you know, man, you could be using those tokens. You know, you could be making bank and doing stuff a lot quicker. So it seems foolish. Eventually they will run out, okay? Especially if you actually play the game correctly and use them. All right, next thing is when you guys are doing your prep, try to prep for items that you think you might actually get an assignment for, okay? When you get an assignment, don't automatically clear it out. You know, do one at a time. We've talked about this many times. Another thing that I've noticed is a lot of people are not understanding what to do when they hit their tickets. For instance, let's say that you have, Okay, so like when you look at what you need to do in terms of when you're looking at your assignments, how to decipher like which assignment you should pick, you look at everything, right? You look at opportunity, you look at risk, reward, all that. When you get to your tickets, you play differently. It's not so much now opportunity as it is reward. So for instance, let's say that you are on your last ticket. Why are you even looking to open up an opportunity? It doesn't matter if you open up an opportunity, right? Because you're not going to be able to use it if it comes in. So that's foolish. I mean, let's say that you have a 2,000 point feed task and you have a 1,800 cement task. Why would you do cement? It doesn't make sense. You could add the extra 200 points. It's your last task. You want to get as many points as possible, right? But let's say that you're on like your 10th ticket, okay? The contest of mayors ends in one day. And you have a 2,000 feed task and an 1,800 cement. You would probably do the cement. Why? Because you have to look at when your club is in war. If your club's not in war on the final day and you dink around for those 200 points, then you clear the feed and you're out of war and you can't do any of your war tasks. That hurts you more than just the 200 points less you should have taken, right? So you have to always look at like what's going on in your particular game. Now, when you get to your tickets, should you cancel assignments? Now, most of the time, no. Okay? If it's like your first maybe 2 or 3 tickets and you have like a, I don't know, like a bunch of upgrades at like 2,000, 3,000, whatever, yeah, you should probably cancel one of the 3,000. But if it's just one 3,000 upgrade and you still have room for something else, it's not worth the hit for how little tasks you have left, right? So points trumps everything when it comes to tickets. If, let's say you have 10 tickets remaining, right? You're not going to go and do an 800 war task when you have, let's say, a 1,200 or 1,600 keys task. It's just not worth it. Now, if you had like a 1,200 legendary launch war attack, yeah, you would probably do it because the likelihood of it popping in like a 3k VU is pretty high. And that would make up for any bit of points lost. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it pops in like a 3k upgrade. But the point is, it did give you a 3k task. It just didn't give you the one you wanted. But the idea here is to get as many points as possible in the amount of assignments given, but not only that, but as quickly as possible. You do not want to spend all... People think, oh, I have plenty of time. Dude, trust me on this, okay? You can't afford to not be able to do war tasks if you're a low-level player. You have to get into a club that does a steady war schedule. Now, it doesn't matter which way you go about it, but the point is, during that time, you want to go as quickly as possible. So what you don't want to have happen is, let's say, like for instance with the guy this week that messed up his epic, he had to hit a downtime right during war. I'm like, so now you're stuck waiting and war's going to be over by the time you're up and moving again. That's why that was a stupid thing to do, you know? Aside from the fact that it really cuts into your stuff there. Okay, the next thing is a lot of you guys are not prepping properly when it comes to your flights. Okay, things like planks and hammers and such. Many of you guys are level 24 and have really high storage capacity. There's no reason why you guys should have this much trouble with your inventory. So if you're having trouble with your inventory, then you need to watch some of my storage management videos and see what you can do to fix it. So for instance, what are you holding? Look at your inventory, break it down and say, okay, what here is actually important? What can I find on global? What do I have completed? So let's say you're holding like 30 watches. You don't need to hold 30 watches. Watches are super easy to obtain. Your flights don't ask for those in massive quantities, right? So maybe 3 to 5 watches is plenty. You don't need to hold 45 caps. Those are super easy to get as well. And again, flights don't ask for a ton of those. But people will hold like 40 caps and then hold like 2 planks. It's like, dude, man, come on. You need planks and hammers and tape and shovels a hell of a lot more than you need caps and watches. All right? When it comes to holding things like factory items, seeds are always really good to hold on to as they are not sold very often on the global market. And they're kind of a pain in the butt to make if your factories aren't open. But you don't want to hold on to like 97 seeds. Textiles are usually something you want to have at least a few on hand so that you can do your prep and any kind of repairs or whatever. Metal, wood, plastic, don't hold on to stuff like that. If you have to put stuff down in your shops or whatever, or if it's to do repairs, then fine. But dude, I've seen people hold like 50, 60 metal, like 50, 60 of each wood at all times, or factory items that are like 9 minutes or less. Why? I don't know. But that's a lot of space. So when you start to add up, like start looking at what you have in your inventory and just group it together and be like, okay, with these 3 items alone, that's 120 space. So like don't do that. When it comes to the VU, if you have more of one than the other, constantly be trying to work with group members for trade. Don't wait until you're completely out and screwed. Then you end up having to spend cash, right? So what you should always be doing is you should always be having a set amount, whether it be like 30 or 50. When I played CoM competitively, I always tried to have about 50 of each VU. So like if I ended up with 30 batteries and like 60 remotes, I would trade them off and try to keep it as even as possible, right? And you'll notice oftentimes that a lot of people are usually missing the same item, so just be aware of that. But a lot of you guys have a asset that most people don't have, and that is most of you have 4 Maxuses, which is guaranteed 4 VU every single day, which is a huge asset for you guys. Do not allow VU to flood your inventory, but don't sell it off for nothing, right? So anytime you have any excess VU that you can trade for storage or dozer that you may need, you should do that. But anything beyond that that you're left over with, you should be launching and getting those keys. Keys are so important. You're going to need them for design, you're going to need them for epic pointers, you're going to need them for war upgrades. I mean, they're really important. So selling your VU is totally stupid. You should not sell your VU at all. You don't need to hold on to a ton of stuff like beach and mountain. Sure, like if you know you're going to have some beach and mountain upgrades and you have the inventory space, yeah, go ahead and hold a few. But some people will hold a ton of it and then never even get, one assignment for it or whatever. So don't do that. When it comes to airport items, if you're not doing airport home upgrades, you have absolutely no reason whatsoever to hold on to airport. If you are a higher level player and you have regional maps unlocked and you are doing upgrades, then you should be holding on to at least, I try to hold on to at least 2 of each. This allows me to get any one of them done, and then if I end up not having, whatever is required or whatever, I can go ahead and re-roll the requirements needed. Okay, that pretty much sums all that up. And yeah, I mean, for now, I think that's it. All right, you guys. Oh, another thing. A lot of you guys need to remember, if you have the experience available, utilize it. Don't just sit there as a level 24 player with a full bar of experience and let a 2400 regular residential assignment just sit there and lurk in your entire list for the entire contest. That's foolish, okay? Do your damn upgrade. All right. Yeah. That's it. Oh, The other thing too is like war deliveries tasks or tasks that require you get them done quickly. Don't start the timer like if you're going to sleep or whatever, you're starting to get really tired. A lot of people have been missing their timers because they fall asleep. Okay? Don't start the task until you're ready to actually do the task. I had one girl, she did this 3 times. She started the beach task when she didn't have all of the items required because she thought, oh, I'll find them quick and easy. I'll just start it. And they don't give you, forever to do it because they assume that you're not going to start it until you actually have the stuff. So be careful of that. All right. And don't forget that when it comes to your past rewards, things like keys and stuff like that, make sure that you're saving that for the contest. Okay? Don't collect on anything prematurely that you don't need to. All right, you guys. Good luck.